weatronic.
But no matter what, have a nice evening or morning or a good day to everyone listening us.
Yeah, hello to everybody. This is the second part of our online workshop, and today we are looking to the fine adjustment of a model. If you have any questions during the workshop, please write it in the chat and we can answer it right in
Instantly, you
yeah,
want to
instantly.
say.
Exactly.
Almost instantly.
Yeah.
We're not real time, but we're answering instantly.
Yes. Okay. I think you know the faces. If not personally, then you see our pictures, Stefan and I.
But you should update. I was shaving last week.
No,
No?
it looks like
Okay.
the same.
Unfortunately.
Perhaps next time. Okay, but let's start directly in the practice, fine adjustment of a model. Okay?
Yes, that's the way we go. And to summarize what we did last time, we were programming our nice little model you see here on the table. It was the caldera, and we will look to the screen of the Bad 60 again.
We already connected the radio via Wi-Fi with our PC. Just give us a second and then we will switch to the radio.
Yes. Enabling the screen sharing.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yep. Okay. And now you see, yes. And now you see the screen of the radio directly.
Yes, so what we did to connect the radio to the computer, I want to show you shortly to start. It is here under the General Settings button. There is the Benutzereinstellung, which most of you will not understand. Here we go and ask for the Sprache, which means language, and switch it here to English. And after leaving the page, it usually works. Sometimes it doesn't work via the browser. Then you have to press the update key. Usually this is F5 on your keypad, and then you see everything in English. And now you don't have to enter the Wi-Fi Einstellungen, but you directly go to Wi-Fi settings. When you want to scan for a new network, you press scan. Then you choose a network. In our case, it is BAT Wi-Fi. You choose it. When you choose it for the first time, you go to the settings page. Here you see the name of the network again. Here is the IP address when the connection was successful, and here you need to enter your password. When the password is already set, you just choose the network and press connect here, which is there when you're not connected. Of course, when you're connected, you can disconnect it here again. And that's the procedure to connect the radio with any Wi-Fi network around, and any device which is in the network can access the radio now via the internet browser. So where you usually tap
Stop. Give us a stop. Yeah. Give us a short break. Because we have to update the screen. Let me check this. because all the people see the screen in German, and we have to change this. So give us a second, we will try to correct this.
So this looks like a little software problem with the online screen sharing software.
Because we saw it all the time what Stefan said. And now, yes, now we see the new screen and everything should be in English.
Yes.
Sorry, Stefan.
So, yeah, no problem. I'm sorry. So, just for a short reply, you have the user settings here for the language, which we changed to English, and you have the Wi-Fi settings here under general settings, where you can scan for networks, where you can connect or disconnect your network. You choose it here from the list, and you have the setup of the network here on the settings screen. Most important is the password. Yes, and I ended up on how to access it, and therefore you get the IP address here, and where you usually tap the www.google.com or whatever, you just tap this number, don't forget the points, and then it will connect to the radio, and you can operate on the bed via mouse and your big computer screen or laptop or tablet or smartphone, whatever. So far for the beginning.
And you can also use your Mac, for example, or iPod or something.
Yes, this is completely platform independent.
Yes.
As long as it's connecting to the same network and having an internet browser, everything works fine. Now to revise what we did last time, we were programming our little model here, the Caldera S2, and we basically went through the wizard, which was including the model configuration, where we told the radio all about the physical outlook of the plane, which means mainly the number of the control surfaces on the wing and the tail type, which you have here below. Then we went to the receiver configuration, choosing the receiver, doing the binding, setting battery warning level, and so on. Then we went to the Servo configuration. We were adjusting everything on the graphic view. So we saw this picture here, went through all the flaps and were assigning the Servo towards the flap, giving it a name, adjusting center and limit position. After leaving the page, we ended up on the functions list, where we had the functions the radio created for our model, which is rudder, aileron, flap, butterfly, elevator, and we had the controls for this. And today we want to use this model and go on with further adjustments. Therefore, I want to power up the plane again, so everything should be working fine. So, connection, no connection, now connection. Everything works perfectly as soon as you do it correct.
Yes.
So what we basically see here for the functions is the retail. Here we go with the retail. we have the elevator, and we have the rudder. On the wing we have the aileron, which is moving surfaces according to aileron. Then we have the flap function, which is moving all the surfaces in one direction, but with only very small travel. And then we have the butterfly function, which is doing the crow break or butterfly, whatever you want to call it. And what we want to start with is a very simple thing, and this is to make the inner flaps now moving together with the aileron, as they are assigned here on the servo assignment. We want to decouple them from the aileron, so you can switch, for example, with a real switch, or later on we want to make it based on flight modes, how much the inner flaps shall work for the aileron, and how or if they shall work at all in specific flight modes. So some people still have their Graupner or Futaba head on, and they were using the aileron just with the outer servos and the flaps with the inner servos, and start creating a mixer, making mixing from aileron to flap, which is basically an idea, but in reality happens just what you tell the radio. So when you ever create a mixer from aileron to flap, it will happen that the aileron will work, and as soon as the aileron will work, the flaps will also work. So you will not get it the way you want to have it. But the way of thinking is a little bit different with the weatronic radio.
Yeah.
And yeah, Norbert, that's you. But it's okay, because people get used to what they do, and when there comes a different way of thinking, it always might be difficult to get used to the new way of doing some things, although the new way might be a little bit more logical. So the way how we would do things is we keep with our flap function with 4 servos, because that's the way we want the flap function to be. It shall be moving all the surfaces on the wing together with a small movement, but we will go to the aileron function and we will split it up. Because the basic idea is we want not to have one aileron function controlling all 4 surfaces on the wing, but we want to have 2 aileron functions, one working all the time and the other working sometimes. So therefore we go here to our original aileron function, and we tell it, okay, you will no more control the inner surfaces. And now when you look to the model on the camera again, you see, okay, only the outer ones are moving and the inner ones are standing still. So
you can't see it so good, but
yeah, I think it's okay with the camera. Now you go to the aileron function and you call it aileron outer, because that's the fact what it is doing. And then you just create a new function, which you see below here, and we will call it aileron inner. So that's the way. We want to control our aileron inner function, of course, with the same stick like we do with the other ailerons. And our aileron inner function shall influence two servos, which is the inner right servo and which is the inner left servo. Now we see, okay, the servos are working, but a little bit strange. It doesn't look like aileron right now, but that's not a problem. Pushing aileron to the left, and we realize, okay, the inner right servo is working correctly, no, working wrong direction. So we have to change, and the inner left is also working wrong direction. We also have to change, and now at least the direction is okay, but the travel is much too big, so we reduce here on the inner right a little bit, for example like this. So now working like an aileron, and the same with the inner left. For this side it's okay, for this side we have to adjust. Now it's working fine. And now we will turn the camera a little bit.
Here's the comment that the outer one are still moving.
Yes.
They have to move.
The outer are still moving. That's the way it is designed. So we have aileron outer function working with control of the stick, controlling servo 2 and 5, which are outer left and outer right. And we have aileron inner function, also working with the left stick, controlling servo 1 and 6. And for a little bit better readability, we can move the inner function below the outer. Now you see everything in one table. What you also see here, the trim is only working on the outer ones and not on the inner ones. If I also want to have it working here, I will go to the trim settings and choose the same trim control like for the aileron. And now we also have a trim for the inner ailerons, working the same like for the outer ones. So now basically both functions are doing exactly the same all the time, and all four surfaces are moving again. What I now want to do is to split it up by a single switch. So I want to switch off the inner one for certain reason, therefore I go to the function setup and I will use a 3-position switch on the flex rate. So choosing the switch, and now you see we have 100% flex rate on center position. So my inner ailerons are moving completely like intended to do. On the upper position we have about 50%. You also see the curve is now flat in opposite to before, and the aileron inner is moving much less. And if I move the switch now to downward position, which you see here with the blue box, it's also 50%, and I will reduce it to 0. And therefore now the curve is completely horizontal and the inner ones are moving no more at all. So that's a very simple way to get it switched, moving full, moving half, moving 0, and later on we will see in one of the next workshops that you also can couple this value here to flight modes. So far so good. Is there any question on the aileron function so far?
And on the adjustments or the possibilities.
Okay, so it seems like everyone got it, and therefore we will proceed with the next steps, and I want to show some more details about the Servo assignment and how it works. So what you basically see here, when I turn on the inner aileron, that the inner right surface is moving 2 less upwards. So I think it could be a little bit more. And therefore I go to the aileron inner and increase the travel a little bit. So here we just have 9% and I want to be at more, let's say 51. And now we're checking it, and it seems a little bit strange because what I realize now is I'm moving the stick slowly and the inner aileron on the right side is just snapping upwards a little bit and then standing still while the outer one is still moving. So unfortunately you don't see, but now you should see, or we just move it a little bit. So this should be better now. So you see the inner one is doing a little jump and then standing still while the outer one is still moving. So what I basically did is I increased the travel here, but I missed one point, which is the limit. So therefore I go to the Servo configuration and go to my inner right servo and see here, okay, limit is not available in the list view because it is a graphic servo. I go here and I see, okay, to one direction the limit is very close to the center, so it cannot move at all. And I will change the limit here. I use the test button and see, in fact, it is the limit, just a very small travel. And I'm going to increase it a little bit. Unfortunately, the flap is a little bit locked. So, but increased it, and now you see it is moving much more. And when I now leave the page, the radio is asking a question, and the question is, do you want to set the servo travel parameter for inner right depending on limits and center settings automatically? Strange question. What do I do?
What does it mean?
So, there is some intelligence in the radio thinking that the limit and the travel somehow might be related to each other, which means that on basic functions, for example, when you think of a rudder controlled by just one servo, the limit and the center usually are the same. And therefore the radio asks you this question. On the first step, I will deny it. No, I don't want to do any automatic calculation, and therefore everything stays the same. So my aileron is still moving, my butterfly is still moving, and my flap settings are also still working correctly. When you look to the functions, aileron inner, for example, you still see the travel here, this 51%. What still is happening is the fact that the travel here is much bigger than the way from the limit to the center position. So when I keep on moving the stick, to a certain point my inner aileron surface will move, and then it will keep on standing while the outer surface is still moving. So the travel here and the limit on the other side are not corresponding. Now I will go again to the Servo configuration, to my inner right surface on the graphic side, and change the limit here just by 1 or 2%, doesn't matter at all. And the radio asks this question again, and now I say, okay, the radio is quite clever. It realized that my travel setting and my limits are related to each other, so it is quite wise to say, yes, please do a recalculation and set it automatically. That's the way we go. We did it, we confirmed, set it automatically, and when I look now to my aileron inner function, everything is super. The travel here is 30%, and when I move my stick and it starts to move the aileron accordingly, it is all working continuously the same. But there is one little problem. The radio calculated all the travels, so when I go now for aileron to the other side, you see the flap is moving downwards the complete way again. And also when I use my flap settings downwards, it's doing the complete way again. So this auto calculation on travel can be a very clever thing, for example, when things are directly related to each other. But it can also be a little bit of a problem, because now I have to redo the settings for the flap and for the aileron downwards.
In the functions.
In the functions for the servos. So the question for you is now, when do I use auto calculation, or when do I not use it? And there is one basic rule which you can follow very easily. When you change big things, for example, you remove the servo because it was broken gear or broken electronics, whatever, but you had to remove the servo and put in a new one, and you changed everything. You changed the center position, you changed the limit, and everything is brand new. You have to set it up anyway. You can use the auto calculation very easily, because you're not deleting any wrong values. But if you're just changing it by 1 or 2% to fit the last details, it might be a little bit tricky, because you're overwriting all your other settings. And the most easy rule to follow is do the auto calculation always when there is just one function controlling this servo, because then it is fitting all the time anyway. The limit is just preventing you from breaking the servo by using mixers or whatever, which are influencing the function, therefore increasing the travel for the servo. So when there is just one function controlling the servo, you always can use the auto calculation. If the servo is controlled by more than one function, like we had it here for our inner flap, always think before, what did I change on the settings? Is there anything special? Did I change the travel in big range? Did I do fine tuning?
Okay, I think this is very easy to remember. Okay, for synchronized small servos for a function, there is a master and a slave servo. Example, elevator servo on Hawk Air World.
Okay. Yeah, synchronizing more servos for a function is what we basically did with our flap here on this glider. So you see function flap controlled by the potentiometer here on the side, and I have the servo travel here according to what it says. So when I move my potentiometer, I synchronize. Quite good example here. I have to redo it. I will change the travel so that the flap inner is moving accordingly to the outer one. So this is meaning synchronizing servos by a function. The main idea here is that each servo is independently controlling a surface, and sometimes I use them all in the same direction, for example for the flap function here, but I also can use them in a different direction for butterfly, for example. What you mean on the master and slave functionality is a little bit a different way of thinking, because this is mainly used when I want to synchronize two servos that are mechanically linked to each other. So the master and slave, you see it here on the servo configuration. There is group master right side servo 1 on the wing, and this is used for really combining two mechanical linked servos, because the master and slave servo they will never ever work independently.
Can we show it when we...
Yes, there is
Make
one
another...
little problem right now. I want
we
to add a
have
new
no more.
servo,
We have
but
a clever 6.
we have a clever 6,
Okay.
and there is no more servo. But this leads us to the next step of today's workshop, and we need more servos, but we don't have them on the current receiver, and we don't want to use a bigger one because it would be a lot of work bringing it out of the fuselage. So we go to the receiver configuration and we use a subreceiver. The subreceiver is a quite clever thing because it is really extending the number of servo plugs I have, so they are not in parallel to the main receiver. So for example here we have for the main receiver clever 6, and now when I use for the sub receiver, for example, a smart 8, it is not the way that servo 1 to 6 are exactly the same. They are really new servos and you can use them independently. Basic ideas of this could be you really need more servos and there is no space in the fuselage, for example, for a bigger receiver, or you really want to split it up, so have one receiver in the front and one receiver in the back.
And you see this also in the servo list.
Yes,
when we will show you this later on.
Look to the servo list, you also will see the separation. The sub-receiver doesn't have to be connected to the main receiver in any way, so it's all working on the RF link. And you also can have it, for example, for steering a little starting car, which you release from the plane after start, or when you think about ship or boat models,
or truck models, for example.
Truck models.
There are so many possibilities with that.
You can control a different model moving completely independent, being on different power supply than the main receiver. So first we go on binding our sub 1 receiver. Procedure is more or less like ever. I press the binding here, then moving to the camera. I power up my sub receiver like this, and I plug the jumper to the SCU port, and usually I would expect some blinking. Yep, here we go.
Now let's see.
it seems like so.
You see, you have all the time to prepare the receiver at this moment.
Yes. So now it's blinking slowly,
Now
showing the binding mode.
Perfect.
And it's bound. And what we now have is one more receiver extending our servo list. So you see here plug number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is still there. Then you see plug 1, which is sub receiver 1, plug number 1, 1, again the sub receiver, plug number 2, and so on. Now when we go to our Servo configuration graphic to finish the example, we can add one more servo here, sub 1, and now this servo, sub 1 plug 1, is slave on group right 1 of servo plug 1 on the main receiver. So this servo will ever do exactly the same like my master servo, and if I want to have slightly differences because of mechanical issues, so you never get it exactly matched mechanically, or also the electronics in the servos, they always have little differences. You can go here for the synchronize button. I will just show this shortly. You see again the group, there is a currency to set, which is representing the number of synchronization points. And you see here the master servo, the slave servos. You can go to the curve and edit it manually, really by taking the point and moving it with plus minus. You can browse through the curve, go to all the points, and you already see the flap is moving. So for this synchronization, the servo is decoupled from the functions and it is really moving to the certain points. So you can synchronize your two servos quite easily. And with our big receivers, the gizmo for example, there also is a third button here showing auto synchronization. So the gizmo, when you link up the servos, offers you the possibility to automatically synchronize them by measuring the current. And it will always set up the slave servo according to the master servo in a way that the current consumption is minimum. So deleting the slave servo again, everything is fine. And I want to show a little bit more possibilities of the radios in a short example with motor functions. So we go to the functions again. We have function motor here, and we want to use a potentiometer for controlling the motor function, which will be this one. And we want to use another servo for controlling the motor function. Here we go. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is already used, and I will use sub receiver 1 servo plug 1. Like we already had it in our example right before. And as the motor function is a little bit critical, Ralph is always worried about his hairdress, and making a lot of wind in the office could be a problem. We decided a little bit a different way. We are using our little switch module. Here you can see it. Our switch for little intelligence switching for whatever you like. It can be ignition, it can be smoke pump, it can be LED lighting, whatever. And it's also capable of handling some power. So we have 4 channels, so to say, 4 power power switches in this switch 4 working the way you intended to do. Yeah, that's the problem with the cables. If you have one, it's okay, but when you have more of them, they're always bothering you. Yeah, this switch 4 can handle up to 10 ampere current on one channel and has 4 of them, but the total current is limited to 20 amps, which I think is still quite okay. And I want to use it now with a little light. So you see here, the light is on, replacing our motor function, so it is more silent in here.
You can show it perfectly in the curve, if you like.
Yes, you can go to the Servo curve, or you can also go to, so yeah, here we go. Now we have the Servo curve, and you see it slowly going up.
Yeah.
So the switch 4 is also able to handle PWM modulation on the output for controlling power continuously.
And this should be today our...
Yeah, this is our motor for today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here you see the Servo curve. You can do fine adjustment on the Servo if you like. If you leave it again, you see here there is curve reset. So I was editing the curve, and then there will be no more travel. And if I want to go back to the travel settings again, because in fact I didn't change anything, I just press on the curve reset and it will warn me that it will delete the curve and I cannot undo it. But as I didn't change anything, it's okay. And then we're back to our normal travel setting. Yeah, so far for the function and the servos, and back to our motor. Especially as we have some high power electric motors and they really can be dangerous. It is quite useful to have a safety switch on the motor function to avoid unintended turning on. Here it's not so critical because it's just a little bit of light, but in reality it could be your fingers. Therefore,
or something else.
We have another functionality in our radio, and this is called limiter. And such a limiter we will now take a look at. So we enter the limiter setup. So you see here on the top we are on limiter of our caldera, and at first the list is empty, so we need to create a new one. Press the plus button, we see limiter 1, and we want to give it a name, and we call it motor safety. After giving the name, which Ralph did extremely good again, we can enter the setup, and you see everything which is related to this limiter. Right now, you see up here, it's just saying nothing because there is no function assigned yet. So we click here on the function, choose one, which will be our motor. And now you see, limiter for function motor. This is controlling function motor. This is the value right now. If I start to turn on the control, you see the curve is moving, the light is on, everything like function motor. And what I want to do now basically is I want to set a limit, so I cannot turn it on by accident with a certain switch. So what I need to do is I need to limit from above. I will go here, limit above, and assign a control. And for example, I want to use this 2-position switch here. 2-position switch, not the potentiometer. So, and what you see now, there is this red area above here, like it says here, switch in lower position, limit plus 50%. This is the value represented here. And when I now switch the switch to plus 100%, you see the red area is gone, and it is up there. And what happens basically when I now use my function motor again and move it up and now switch the switch, you see the red area is coming from above, limiting my motor function to 50%. And you see the control is still on 100, but the motor function is limited. And when I now turn on the control in the area up above here, it doesn't change anything because the limiter is working.
You can, here's a question, but in German, you can do all this also with a 3-position switch.
Yes.
There's no difference.
You can do it with a 3-position switch as well, or even with a potentiometer. I will show in the next step. So right now I just want to limit my motor for safety reasons completely. So on the lower position of the switch I choose -100. And you see the red area is moving completely over the screen. The light is turned off, and I can move my control to whatever position I want. The motor is off and fixed, limited to -100%. And if I switch the switch, the red area is gone and the motor function is working like ever. Very useful on electric motors.
Very
easy to set up, and it's also more flexible than this because what I can do, I can use, for example, a 3-position switch. I want to use this one right now. And again, you have the -100% on the lower position, and you have the +100% on the upper position. And for example, for starting a big combustion engine, it can be useful to limit it to a certain value. So you cannot accidentally give full throttle, but you want to have a throttle cut switch, which would be this one. And you want to have the possibility to set it to a certain value in between for starting the engine or keeping it on idle run. Therefore you go here and set the limit to a certain value, for example -70%. Now you have on the middle position, -70 is a little bit less for our light here. But we can change it to -45, for example. So you see there's a little bit of light, and now it's switched completely off, switched a little bit, so I can regulate on the lower end, but limited to -45, and only if I put the switch to the upper position, it is no more limited. And it even can be more than this. There also can be a proportional control, for example this one. And if I use this one here, I can change the limit proportional. It's not so useful for a motor, but on one of our upcoming workshops we will see how we can use this proportional limiter for controlling up and go engine on a big glider by switching on the throttle stick between air brakes and motor function. Yeah, so far for the basic setup. Again, we went through our function logic.
Are there any questions?
Yeah,
right
first
now?
of all, any questions to the limiter?
No, it seems to me that you explain all this very, very good.
Yeah, I do my very best.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
very successful.
for a little summary, we again went to the functions, explaining our logic one more on splitting up an aileron, explaining how to work with servo travel and the auto travel calculation. We did a little setup on the aileron inner for the switch on the flex rate to control if our ailerons inner are moving or not, or just a little bit. And we went to the auto calculation of the servo travel. We were showing the sub-receiver on the receiver configuration. And afterwards we were using or creating another function for the motor, and then setting up a limiter for a safety switch on the motor function.
So let's have a short look at the telemetry screen and screen adjustment, okay?
Yeah, if there are no further questions, I think
I
still
have
have
more questions.
10 minutes more, so we can look on the telemetry.
Yeah.
External connector.
I think external telemetry.
Yeah, I think Gilbert means external telemetry. Or are you
talked about?
I think we're doing this later on. Yeah, first looking on the telemetry. I think Ralph will remember the question about the external connectors. So
the external connectors will come with one of the next updates.
Yes, if it's meant like external telemetry, it will be one of the next updates.
Yeah. So, and the gyros will be in the next update. The next update, which is coming, contains only the gyro functionality, and I think this will come within the next weeks.
Yes, containing the at least basic gyro functionality. It will be not a perfect solution on the very first shot.
But we are testing this at the moment.
Yes, we are testing.
Streams are ready.
We want to proceed fast. Yeah. But coming back to...
yeah, I remember. He's the guy with the RC car in the movie business.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I basically did, I connected the Vario here to the main receiver. Should stay like this. So the sub-receivers cannot send telemetry data back, but the main receiver. And for using telemetry, you need to have two things. One is a sensor in the plane collecting all the data, and after this, the other thing is you need to decide what you want to do with this telemetry values. There is one basic thing, you can just display them on the screen, which is very easily. So you go here for the screen adjustment.
This is the home screen.
Yeah, on the home screen right now. Choose for a value. For example, we have Vario altitude. And now you see here there is Vario altitude. And for example, I want to have another telemetry screen. There can be different ones, up to 8, and you can choose the layout. So you can choose between full screen, 2 lines, 4 boxes, 6 boxes, and I want to choose full screen, and I want to take another. For example, I want to see Vario climb rate, and here I see Vario climb rate for one of my possible up to 8 telemetry screens, so I can add more than this. Second, we just will leave empty. And when I now look back to my home screen, I see here Vario altitude. And when I move to the right on your radio, you do it with wiping. You see the Vario climb rate, and you see minimum and maximum values. When you just tap on the screen, it will ask you whether I want to delete min or max value. You confirm, and you see here now minimum and maximum are deleted and working now according to the minimum and maximum values. So,
and you can check your minimum and maximum values for every flight.
So, changing the values a little bit, you see here changed, and by wiping again or clicking here, you see the empty screen because we didn't assign anything. One more time, you're back on the home screen.
Can you go on the second screen once again? Here you have 2 decimal values, places.
Okay, the number
can you change this?
Decimal places is according to the value. So it's usually in a sense, do you say, in a useful way. So Vario climb rate is like this. Meters will be always full meters, so no decimal places at all. But this is just for displaying.
Yeah. You cannot change it by your own.
Yeah, this is displaying recorded in the log file. It's always a little bit more accurate. So going back to the home screen, and the second way you can use the telemetry stuff is on the voice and sounds. So you cannot only see it, you also can hear it. And there is one basic menu again. You see here there is a mode, and I can create up to 16 modes, whatever. I can give them a name. For example, this one could be called Vario mode. Here we go. And if I want to activate this mode, I will use a switch. And for example, I want to use switch by control, and it should be this one, active in so active in middle and low position. So now when this switch is in the middle or low, the mode is active, and when it's on top position, the mode is inactive. You just see when it's active, it is blue in the background, inactive, it is off. Whenever the mode is active, there are 2 ways of getting voice output. One is the speaker symbol. Here I can again choose telemetry values like before for showing. I now choose them for announcing, like Vario altitude. And on the setup I can change how often they will be told. So for example, I can not only have it once when the mode is activated, but for example every 20 seconds. So on the speaker, it's a time related announcement, either once or every 20 seconds. On the exclamation mark symbol, it's a value related output, mainly used for warnings. Example again could be Vario warn me if the altitude is doing something. I go to the setup and I say, okay, warn me if the altitude is greater than, for example, 1000 meter. So when you're circling big thermals and also when you have a big glider, you want to be warned above 1000 meter, for example, or you have limitation on your airfield, you're not allowed to go higher than 400 meter. You can use this for a warning value. And also you can change the alarm type, whether it shall be with voice, so it will tell you attention and then the value, or whether there shall be vibration, so there will be a short vibration on the radio if the vibration module is included, or there also can be beeps before it is telling you the value. And you can choose if it shall be repeated continuously, so it will always tell you the value as long as it is greater than the threshold value, or whether it shall only tell it once or twice.
The vibration module is an option, but you can build it in by your own. It's very, very easy.
Yeah, so whenever a mode is active, like you see here the vario mode, everything that is inside the setup gun will be announced or warned. And yes, you can hear an example. Yeah, we hear there is a 3 times warning due to receiver configuration, because here battery warning is on 6.8, but the life is on 5.3. So we reduce it, and now the 3 times beep is gone.
-1 meter.
Yes, and so you hear right now the radio is telling this -1 meter, which is the vario altitude every 20 seconds. So it should be coming soon again.
-1 meter.
Yeah, here we go. Or it also will tell every time when I switch on
-1 meter.
the mode.
-1 meter. -1 meter.
Yes, so far for the voice output, I think it also is quite easy. There are some more options to play around. So one is the wave file. You can add. Be quiet. So turning off the mode, and it's quiet again.
Okay.
So you can assign a wave file here for the mode. So whenever you want to have special customer stuff, you go here for a wave file and you choose.
You have to click double?
Yes, you have to do a double click for selecting this. So now it is selected.
I see it.
And now when I switch on the mode, it will play the wave file.
I feel good. -1 meter.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
also this wave file is possible to have it in the setup. Probably you already saw it. So if you don't want to have the radio to tell you the value or the unit or the item, you can also assign a wave file to be announced. Yes, and the last option, and therefore we come to an end, is you can choose if the vario sound is on or off for each mode. So when I turn here for on and switch on the mode,
-0 meter.
then I will hear the vario sound, and just making a little example. So right now it's going downwards.
-0 meter.
Yeah, a little bit powerful.
Yeah, I think it's, you can hear it, you can hear it. As an example, it's okay.
Yes.
But you cannot use a sound when you turn on the transmitter. You cannot link a sound, Alan, when you turn on the transmitter. That's not possible.
Yeah, it could be when you use. Yeah, I don't know exactly. Probably it is doing it when you use a sound mode and create a fixed switch on.
Yeah.
Try this. Probably it works. I didn't think about this up to now.
Yeah, just try it. Just try it. And we can finish.
Yeah. Now we will go and have a little meal.
Yeah, you will have a little meal. Yeah.
Yeah, I will have a big
every
meal.
day.
You will have a little meal.
Yes, okay. So thanks for all of you for listening, and we will see us in our next workshop.
Bye bye. Have a nice evening.
Bye bye.
Weatronic.